they're really not looking their best here. No judgment, please. It was quite sweaty to wear. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Wander and Create with Emma. I'm Emma, and in this channel I talk all things knitting and crochet and other fibre-based pursuits such as yarn store tours and then a bit of knitting and crochet on the go while I travel. Today's episode is a winter, or more specifically Christmas themed one. I know we're only in November, but in today's video I'm going to be covering Christmas themed garments. So I thought if you're planning to make your own Christmas themed garment this year, you probably need to start getting ready now to have it in time for Christmas. So I'm going to be sharing 4 Christmas themed patterns that I have made across the years. I'm going to be talking about how it worked out, what my experience was with knitting each of those, and I will include links to all the patterns I talk about in the description below. As it happens, they are all knitting patterns. That wasn't my intention when I thought about the concept of this video, but as I was reviewing the kind of specific Christmas things I have made over the years, they do all happen to be knitting when it comes to garments. However, I do have a future video planned over the next few weeks where I'm going to be looking at Christmas decor and ornaments that I have made over the years, and that one definitely includes crochet, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss that one. And the patterns that I'm sharing includes 2 socks, 1 sweater and a hat. Okay, so now I've told you what it's all about, I'm going to dive in to the first make. Okay, some transparency. When I came to editing this video, I discovered that a whole chunk of the middle section of the video had disappeared. Either the camera had chosen not to record it, or I forgot to hit the record button. Not sure which, so I'm here to re-record some of it. So although I did get changed into the clothes I was wearing when I recorded it originally, I realised it's going to be very obviously not the same. Like, it's a different time of day, the lighting's different, my hair is different. So I'm just going to be transparent and say I'm re-recording this bit. So we're going to have a section of me now and then go back to the original record. Thank you for bearing with. So my first pattern that I wanted to share with you is the Betty and Judy Lodge sweater by Poison Girls. Let me grab it. If you have watched my videos for a little while now, you know that I have made a few Poison Girls patterns in my time. I love the kind of vintage aesthetic that the designer has. And for some reason, as we'll kind of cover in this video, I am very drawn to like that vintage aesthetic, especially at Christmas time, for reasons I'm not sure of, but will become apparent as we go through this video. So the pattern itself came out in 2018, but I only knit it last year. And although I'd had the pattern for a few years prior to that, I was using yarn that I already had in my stash, which was a mix of acrylic, no, it's all acrylic, but not all the same brand. I had yarn that had been given to me by somebody else, and then some leftover yarn from other projects that allowed me to knit this sweater. So I will show you my result. Here it is. So it has this intarsia motif. It was my first time doing intarsia, and if you look closely, it's quite a messy attempt. So this bit, it's constructed kind of top down. You start with the intarsia, I believe, and then working the back before joining in the round, or vice versa. But it's worked flat, and I did a very messy job because I was more focused on completing this and having it ready for Christmas events last year than I was to have it perfect. And I figured it's me who's wearing it. People that don't knit aren't going to notice. Other knitters may notice, but whatever, it's my project. I'm only going to be wearing it occasionally, a couple of times a year. What does it matter? Now I think I would do a much better job. But yeah, it was my first try, and I think I just didn't do particularly well with the yarn joining. I think it looks pretty messy. And I think also, although they're technically all worsted weight yarn as the pattern calls for, because it's all different brands, they are slightly like not the same. So I think that doesn't help. Some of like the white yarn is quite a bit thicker than the green. But anyway, that's fine. And the back, I liked this detail of the keyhole shaping with a button join. Again, it's looking quite scruffy here. This has also just been sitting in storage. I got out for this video. And Because it's a vintage pattern, it has some waist shaping to it, which I don't know if you can really tell on this video. It's a cropped length, which is perfect for me because I tend to have high-waisted skirts, jeans, trousers, etc. And then I think the sleeve length you could adjust. I went for a kind of bracelet length, and it does have some colour work detail on the sleeve as well, which I think is a really nice added effect at the end of the project. Because I was using acrylic yarn, although the sample used in the original design is Quince & Co, which I think is 100% wool, the acrylic one does mean it was quite sweaty to wear. I wouldn't wear much underneath it. I think I wore it to a Christmas party last year and I got so hot, but that was my choice, my issue. Don't recommend knitting it with acrylic yarn for those reasons alone. But again, you're not wearing it all the time, it's just for fun events, so it doesn't matter too much. You also have an option in the pattern of how you want to do the sleeve setting in the shoulder. So I've gone for a puffed sleeve, again for that more vintage effect, but you do have the option of just doing a straight seam as well. So it depends on your preference. Overall, I found the project to be quite engaging with the different types of knitting involved, with the way it's constructed, doing that kind of keyhole at the back of the neck and then the intarsia worked flat at the front before doing the stockinette stitch in the round. I found that fun, the colour work, kind of changing the yarns fun, and to be honest, I have always got compliments when I've been wearing it, which is the sign to me of a successful project. However, there is one downside to this pattern which I did not discover until I was prepping my notes for this video, and that is that the pattern itself is not size inclusive, unfortunately. It's graded to a 3X, which is a 52-inch bust, and to me that's not fully size inclusive. If you go by the standards set out by the Craft Yarn Council, they would go up to a 60-inch bust. So this falls short for reasons I'm not fully sure of why it couldn't be graded up a couple more sizes. So that's a real shame, and I normally try to not include patterns that are not fully size inclusive, so I'm super sorry to everybody there for doing that, but I still wanted to show this to you as an example of a Christmas themed pattern I've made and share my experience. And one of those experiences is that it's actually not size inclusive, so it does have a downside. My next pattern is a pair of socks, and these are the Advent 2020 socks by Natalie Sheldon of Remembrance Pottery. So this pattern, as the name might suggest, came out in 2020, but I think I actually knitted my version in 2022 maybe. It's a free pattern available from Ravelry and on their website, and it's an Advent sock, meaning that you had a certain section of the pattern to do each day over the 24-day period of Advent in December, and by the end of that you get a pair of socks out of it. So really fun project in the lead up for Christmas. Makes it that bit more exciting, having something to do each evening, a little bit more of your sock, to then have a pair of socks to wear on Christmas Eve. I'll show you mine, but these are also really scruffy. I feel like sometimes when it comes to things I knit for me, I don't care so much on the perfection thing, or at least I certainly didn't a few years ago when I was just trying things out for the first time. So much like the Betty and Judy Lodge sweater was the first time doing intarsia colour work, I think these socks might have been my first colour work socks to have done, and I was very much approaching it as a stash busting project. I had a bunch of fingering weight yarn, not even necessarily sock yarn, just fingering weight yarn in my stash, and I wanted to do these Advent socks. So I went for, well, I'll just show you what they look like. Here we go. So as you can see, this design has some houses on it. I think because it was 2020, the designer said they were inspired by that sense of community. It was 2020, it was the COVID pandemic, a lot of people were at home. I think it's kind of meant to showcase people's different living situations with like high rises, you know, bungalows, homes, etc. And I've gone for like a night and a day sock. And I was using just random yarn I had in my stash. You can see some of it is like kind of what would be stripy yarn, and I don't know if that was the best approach, because actually using that yarn on the white sock, you just then can't see the pattern very well because there is cream within this yarn. It just doesn't stand out at all. So that was a lesson learned for me. And so yeah, it was my first thing with colour work. I was also still doing magic loop method at that point for sock knitting, which I've moved on from because it never really worked for me. I always ended up having a ladder on the side, and you can kind of see that where I've got quite tight pulling my stitches around the magic loop. It's just got this quite obvious crease to it. Yeah. Anyway, I have worn them actually a lot, so they're really not looking their best here. No judgment, please. But overall, it's a fun project. I was just trying out colour work and didn't worry too much about it. I kind of tend to just wear these around the home. The other piece of it that was new for me was the short row heel, which actually is in the other sock that I'm going to be including in this video. And I did not get on with the short row heel. It's not a heel that I tend to do on socks. Even though I do the short row like wrap and turn approach in other knitting projects, for some reason on the short row heel I did not get on with it. You can see I have holes where the wraps, I've picked up the wraps to knit. Sorry, these are so scruffy. And I had the same on the other heel, but it's kind of harder to see that. But when I'm, oh, you can see it goes right through, which is kind of obvious when I wear them. But that's a bit of a downside. You'll hear me talk about that more with my other sock as well, because they had a similar experience. But that's a me thing, I guess. These are a good project to just try out different things if you've never done a colourwork sock before, if you've never done a short row heel. Recommend it just for some fun leading up to Christmas Day. And it's a free pattern, so you've got nothing to lose. It's a great stash buster. Give it a go. Maybe I'll try it again this year. I think they might have other Advent socks too, so maybe I should look up another pair and have a knit them in December. Next up, I have another sock pattern, and actually this is a work in progress for me. I'm currently knitting this pattern. It's a pair of socks, and I have just finished the first sock this morning. I still have the other one to go, but this has been on my list again for years. These are fresh. The other ones I made quite some time ago. So it is the Holly Jolly socks by This Handmade Life. This is a Christmas themed pattern that I bought the pattern for years ago. It has been sitting in my Ravelry library for a long time, and each year I think this year I'm going to make them. I never do, and I had no excuses left this year. I was like, this is the year I'm going to do it. So they're a colourwork socks. As you can see, they have this very vintage style look with the candy cane striping, the slightly darker reds and the greens. Very, very drawn to them. So a few weeks ago, I made the commitment and I purchased the yarn. So initially I bought the Cascade Heritage sock yarn for all three of the colours that I need. So I had the Christmas red by them. It's actually called Christmas red, white. Can't remember if that has a specific name, but a white yarn. And then I bought the Christmas green as well. But I decided that this green was too bright for what I wanted. For that, I liked the look of the socks the designer has knit, that sample. And for that, I wanted a darker green. Ideally a darker red as well, but I could see past that if the green was darker. And I and ahed about whether I'd just do it anyway. I've bought it now. And then I thought, no, I want these to be looking, I've waited so long to knit them, I want them to be just right. So I went out to one of my local yarn stores and I bought some darker green. I couldn't find any in the store of the Cascade Heritage in a darker green that, well, not a darker green that I had wanted. And so I ended up buying from a local yarn dyer from Bramble Ridge, so they're local to Vancouver, and I bought their sock yarn in the colour Pine. So it's still, you may think, fairly bright. If I compare it to the Cascade Heritage, you can see it's a slightly different tone, slightly darker, and when I put it together with the red and the green, I just felt happier about it, much happier than I had been. So worth a purchase. And maybe a week ago, I started casting on and working the first sock. And as I say, I've now finished. So these are worked cuff down. I think the pattern calls for a 3.5mm needle, but I know I've used that Cascade Heritage sock yarn many times before to knit socks. So I knew what my gauge was, or I knew what needle size I needed to get the gauge the pattern had requested, sorry. Actually, again, I will say with this pattern, it is only knit to 2 sizes, and that is a women's medium and a women's large, which is a foot circumference of 8 inches and 9 inches respectively. Obviously, the length of the calf and the length of the foot would be completely adjustable. But yeah, maybe it would take a bit of maths again if you needed to make it for a wider circumference or a smaller circumference. But I wanted to share that with you, and unfortunately it is yet another pattern that has not been graded to a huge range of sizes. But let me show you the sock that I just finished this morning. Ta-da! I love it. I think it's so pretty, so cute. It's exactly what I wanted, a very festive looking sock. I will save it till closer to Christmas though, and obviously I have to finish the second one. So it's worked cuff down. I use 2.25mm needles. I think the pattern asked for 2.5, but I tried them on, it fits me. I just knew what needle size I needed for the gauge of the pattern already without having to gauge swatch, although you should always do that. I'm experienced with this yarn, so I knew. It's worked cuff down. This one is also another short row heel, just like the Advent socks. And again, I have to say this is the first time since doing those Advent socks that I have done a short row heel. And you can see that I'm still very much struggling with the wraps and the twists. I'm not sure why, because in other patterns where you do the short row shaping for like the neck and the back, I have no issue. But for some reason on the heels, I obviously get in a bit of a muddle and it just looks very untidy. Especially when I'm wearing them, I feel like you can see the gaps a little bit more. So for my second one, I don't know whether to just give it another attempt and try and figure out what I'm doing wrong for these short row heel wrap and twists, or just do an afterthought heel, because I could just go straight from, you'll see the sole of the sock has stripes rather than the kind of candy cane, like spirally effect rows. It has the flat stripe. So I could just do the afterthought heel, place, or maybe even place the waist yarn and start that. I'm not sure, but overall very happy with how they turned out. And once you get to this, you've done the colour work, you get to the striping, it's very easy to get into the groove of it. It's a 4-stitch and 4-row pattern repeat for the spiraling. And then obviously this is just 1 by 1 colour change. So it's very memorable once you get into that section. And this colour work is also not so bad. So I'm really enjoying it. I'm happy to be finally making these socks, and I'm pretty confident. Let me show you. So given that I've already knit one sock, I still have all of this left. I don't think they're going to be too much smaller after making the second one. So I think I might be able to make another pair and give them away this year, or maybe next year. We'll see how much time I end up having, as we're only kind of 6 weeks out at this point. We'll see. But again, love the vintage look of them. Fun project. Unfortunately only in a couple of sizes. That would be the downside, and the downside for me is the short row heel shaping. But again, if you're an experienced sock knitter, you may be able to change up your heel type, or you can just do it and I can't. I know I mentioned the size of needle that the pattern calls for. The designer themselves uses DPN, like double pointed needles, which I've still never used, but I think I should try. I just use the short circulars that I like to use, which doesn't matter too much. The pattern is quite sparse in its detail, but you would just need to know that where, for the heel shaping, where it's just saying knit all the stitches on the needle, you'd know that's for one needle and not like all of the stitches on this circular needle. Little things like that, that as long as you don't forget that, you're all grand. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say about that. And later on, I will be casting on for that second sock. So yeah, if I finish the second sock before I publish this video, I'll insert some footage so you can see the finished look. I finished them. I'm so happy with them. And the second sock, I did a much better job with the wrap and turns. Don't know if you can really tell there, but I had no holes. I think it's just a me problem not remembering how to do wrap and turns properly. I think they're super cute. Can't wait to wear them more over the Christmas period. Okay, and my final knitting Christmas themed pattern is the Thicc Santa Hat by Knitting Tipsy. This is a free pattern from Knitting Tipsy's website. I made this probably in, again, 2021, I think, or perhaps 2021. I'd seen the pattern, I think she'd had it out for at least a couple of years by that point, and I liked the look of it. It's a little bit different to the traditional Santa hats you may see to knit. I loved the oversizedness of it. I loved the length of it. Unfortunately, I can't show you my version because I took it to the UK, I think a few years ago, because I tend to always have Christmas in the UK. They're there, I just leave them there because there's no point carrying them back with me after Christmas. So I don't have it to show you. I can insert you pictures I've taken with me wearing it so you can see. But this one is such a quick knit. Even you may think otherwise given the size of it and the length of the hat, but honestly it's a few hours because it is a super bulky yarn weight that you're using. The designer, Knitting Tipsy, and the yarn that I used was the same. The Lion Brand Woolies Thick and Quick, which is what the pattern calls for and what I used because that's a very accessible, affordable yarn. The colourway I picked for the red was the same as the pattern, which is cranberry. But then for the brim and for the pom-pom, I picked a slightly different. I didn't go for the white brim. I went for the cream with a strand of gold metallic running through it because I wanted that extra little bit of sparkle, which I felt was a perfect choice. Again, I think a little bit of me wanted the sparkle, but also I felt like the cream in the red was again more vintage, and I don't know why I'm so obsessed with it, but I clearly am. This pattern is only one size, but it's huge. I think whatever size your head is going to be, it's going to be too big for you, to be honest. It's knit with a 9mm needle, so again, that's an indication of how quick this project can be to make. If you're looking for a last minute gift or decoration, this would definitely be the one out of all 4 patterns. And actually I had enough yarn left over to make a mini hat out of it, so I didn't completely follow the pattern. For that one I made a smaller version so that my little niece and nephews could wear it as well, although even the smaller one is a bit big for them. But I had enough of the yarn just to make a small little pointed hat that would match the bigger one. It was a very easy pattern to follow, and as I say, it is intentionally oversized. The one downside I would say of it is because you're holding those 2 strands together, so it's very dense fabric, and you have the big pom-pom on it. It's quite heavy to wear. It's not something I think you could wear, or I couldn't wear for longer periods of time, because I felt just getting pulled down. I guess it's by the pom-pom, but the kind of dense of the fabric, that's how I have found it to be. I love to wear it for a little bit, but then I do find I have to take it off because it's just kind of feels like a lot of weight on my head. I'm not sure why, but it wouldn't stop me from making more of them in the future because super fun, very easy pattern, great for beginners, I think, looking to make their first kind of fun Christmas project. And you get to make the pom-pom, which is always another nice bit of craft to engage with. And yeah, I expect that I will be getting these hats out for every Christmas for years to come, which is also the sign of a great project. And as I mentioned, that is a free pattern that you can get from Knitting Tipsy's website. So they are my 4 tried and tested Christmas patterns. I hope you enjoyed me sharing those projects with you. Are you inspired to make any of them? Have you made some of those patterns already? If so, share your experiences down below. I'd love to hear if you felt differently or the same with one particular pattern. If there's any Christmas themed patterns that you have your eye on, drop them in the comments below because I'd love to see them and they may become future projects for me too. Thank you for watching this Christmassy themed episode. You can look forward to future Christmassy themed episodes from me as we go through December, and I will be doing that final roundup of my yarn stash busting that I've been trying to get through throughout 2025. Please give this video a like if you enjoyed it and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.